The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The date is July 17th, 2021. The subject is the emotional aspect of the knees in the sign of Cancer. And today's topic is TUBERS. Me. Today I woke up thinking about what else you can take from the image of this tree of life beyond its roots. And then I went to have breakfast and, without asking, a woman filled my plate with huge potatoes. I am. And you ate them. Me. Obviously. But that's when I understood today's topic. The most interesting thing is that while she ate them, she thought, what can you get out of a potato, in addition to starch? I am. Oh, many things. You can't even imagine. Me. Well, tell me. I am. No, tell me first. How do you feel? Me. Oof. I feel weird, exhausted, sleepy all the time, with a strange melancholy and feeling strangely every day more alone and separated from everyone. I am. Things are changing and they demand that the external be modified so that you can find your place. If you don't move the environment, if you don't rearrange it, and it always remains the same, then you will never find your shape, and you will take the one determined by the environment. Me. Like the water that shapes itself according to its container? I am. Or maybe it would be more understandable with the potato. In the earth, the potato can expand, grow, and move the earth, making its way to take its shape. But if you grow a potato inside a small container like a jar, then the shape of the jar will determine the limits and shape of the potato. That she will stop being herself to be a reflection of her surroundings. Me. Oh, I understand. I am. To take the next step, you need to get away from your environment, and therefore the conditions are given for it to be so. Me. But it's ugly, horrible. I am. You will never get a great transformation of the unconscious in a linear and programmed way. How do you get out what you don't know you have inside? It is through external pressure that the hidden is released. And that hurts. It generates trauma. It's like a birth in which there is a separation. Like a mother who feels the pressure of a child she doesn't know, pushing to be born, and in childbirth, she feels that she loses a part of herself. Me. Postpartum depression. I am. Exactly. There are mixed feelings. A joy for the start of a new life, at the same time feeling a void due to an inner loss. At the same time that a birth is celebrated, a death is mourned. And you are so attached to that womb that only pressure is capable of releasing what is hidden in your unconscious. Like all humans, you're immersed in the moment of the stress of being born. And that is something you must do alone, the moment of transcendence. Me. But I don't like being bad, away from the people I love. I am. Sometimes the beauty of a landscape can only be appreciated from afar. Me. I understand, although it hurts. I am. Although? It does not hurt. Just accept it. Hurts, fuck, anger, admit to being angry. Me. I am. Anger is the only thing that keeps me out of depression. I am. Because it is an internal force trying to get out of the depth, making its way before the pressure of the environment. But you must admit that the pressure is not exerted from outside. Me. Don't I? I am. Of course not. The reason why you feel pressure in your environment is because you grow up. If the potato never grew, it would never feel the pressure of the soil around it. But because it expands, what used to only cover it now presses on it, and it hurts. It's natural. It's no one's fault, neither yours for expanding nor the ground for containing you. It is a natural reaction. Me. So I'm supposed to stay distant when faced with what hurts me? I am. Not exactly like that. You have to face it. But first you have to step away to take in the big picture, the landscape. You have planted very big things, and the land is too wide to cultivate it with the tools at your disposal. You have to look for more, see from another point of view, rethink the crop, the methods. Me. I feel that in this month I had withdrawn, as if I had been further away than ever from everyone. I am. You must guard yourself, preserve. Me. But I don't want to reach the North Pole like this. I should arrive in peace, in joy, in plenitude. I am. Expectations. All expectations of how. Who told you that you should get there happy, as if everything depended on it? Me. Nobody. I am. Stop thinking about how things should be and accept how they are, to stop controlling your destiny and fulfill it once and for all. Drop expectations, beliefs. Let yourself die. Build the tomb that corresponds to you. Me. Grave? I am. That's right. Yesterday you have honored your dead. You have recognized the roots by their actions. Now you must contemplate the graves and build your own to give nutrients to those who will sprout from you. Therefore, this whole process is leading you to an incessant mourning. Me. My own death. I'm building my own grave. I am. Oh yeah, you are digging your grave so that they can recognize your grave. When her potato widens, she swells, lifting the earth that oppresses her, leaving a small hill similar to a grave. The word tomb comes from the Greek timbos, which means mound, a hill of earth that in ancient times marks the presence of a dead person. The Latin word for this was tumulus, from the verb tumere, which means to swell, something from the Indo-European teuve, swollen, which gave the Latin term tuer, and from there tuber. In Latin, a small swelling is said tuberculus. Me. Oh, the tubers. Potato, carrot, beetroot, radish, cassava, ginger, turnip, sweet potato. I am. A tuber is a protrusion of the root that widens in order to accumulate reserves of minerals, waters, sugars, salts, some known as carbohydrates and starch, in the case of scarcity or drought. They begin to swell until they occupy prominent spaces, which raise the ground. Sometimes the tuber is the root itself, as in the case of carrots, or in other cases, they are lateral formations beyond the roots, as is the case with potatoes and sweet potatoes. Some trees have tubers, which are nodal-style formations, which spread across the ground, becoming potential shoots for new trees. The tubers raise the soil when they swell, and for this reason it reminds the ancients of the idea of the tombs of their dead, as if each potato were a sarcophagus. Me. Ooh, seeing it like this now, it makes me feel a bit sick to eat it. I am. In a certain way, we all devour our dead through the emotions and actions in our lives. They nourish the sap, propel the leaves and flowers to grow. Me. Death gives life. I am. Therefore, it is necessary to die, let oneself die, in order to be born and thus live. In conceptual terms, it implies letting a part of oneself die, grieving, acknowledging that pain, losing what one loves, and thus understanding what is above everything lived, every experience. Me. In other words, by experiencing death in life, we can recognize what we really value from what we have, and turn everything else into compost. I am. That implies, each of the relationships we have. Therefore, you must let yourself die. For this reason, during the most important weeks of this year, you will disappear, so that each one can carry out a duel capable of regenerating the idea of themselves on this path of life. And in doing so, what remains buried will become the nutrients for your expansion. Each of the tubercles that are hidden in your past, that are hidden, represent information dormant in your unconscious that determines the direction in which you move, aspects that go beyond you, and that design what you see of yourself. In the tubers you find the strength to rise up. Now, each experience of pain, each inorganic situation is reserved and accumulated in these tubercles, which is why they sometimes become cysts, tumors, if they do not have a specific use, a purpose. Me, tuberculosis. I am, lung condition caused by a bacillus, a bacteria, that infects respiratory areas and spreads to other organs, creating nodes that hinder breathing, causing coughing, fever, and the appearance of tubercles from internal tissues that hinder the proper functioning of the organism. The body allows the settlement of this bacteria by resonating with the anger within itself, for not feeling joy in its life. He has the feeling of being forgotten, abandoned. He wants to keep the people he loves for himself. It may be that his selfishness leads him to be jealous of what others possess, and he feels like a victim with a grudge against the rest of the world, seeking revenge on him, which is connected to the feeling of loss of territory, of invasion of the same. Do you feel this? Me. Yes, they are emotions that I feel. I am. Old stories from your ancestors, parents who have cheated on their children, your grandfather lying about the house saying it was yours when it wasn't, his father lying to him about her inheritance, your great-grandfather cheating on his son, accumulated rage for an invaded territory, a proper home, victim of what others have and you don't. Me. Oh, I see. I am. The tubers accumulate emotions, stories, traumas. They make balls that continue to accumulate generation after generation, making the dead weigh more than the living. Me. But at some point, we are also accumulating. I am. That's right. The personal need in your present recreates these situations and continues to accumulate, creating new nodules. Me. How do you go from tubers being something negative for development to being part of it? I am. Resorting to the potentials that they hide. And for this, we will have to resort to the most famous tubers of the tree of life. Me. Which ones? I am. The Sephirot. In the Hebrew Kabbalah, 10 divine principles are drawn as nodes or tubercles of the tree of universal wisdom that they call Sephirot. By integrating the potentials of these Sephirot, you can obtain the nutrients of the tubers. Me. I thought they represented the worlds and dimensions of consciousness, like the different kingdoms of heaven. I am. As in many religions, the heavens are divided into different states, and throughout them, its inhabitants give gifts to the living. However, these stories are nothing more than analogies to describe a psychological path. We can use 2 of the great trees of existence where their worlds have the tubers as lighting tools. Me. In the Hebrew culture, I guess it's the Sephirot, and in the Norse culture, I guess it's Yggdrasil. I am. If we take Yggdrasil, we will see that this great tree is divided into 9 kingdoms, from its darkest roots, Niflheim, home of darkness and terror, Helheim, home of the dead, Svartalfaheim, home of dark elves and dwarves, Jotunheim, home of giants, Midgard, home of humans, Vanaheim, home of the elementals and nature gods, Alfheim, home of the light elves, Asgard, home of the gods, and Muspelheim, primordial home of fire. And starting from this, we could add a 10th called Ginnungagap, home of the void, from where all things emerge. This tree contains 24 fruits distributed throughout the kingdoms, and one more from Ginnungagap, representing the void itself and all possibility. The 24 fruits or tubers that accumulate both the positive and the negative, useful for the development of the tree, are called runes. Me. Oh, the runes are potential. I am. They are usually seen as lucky reading tools, but in reality, they are attributes to awaken in oneself. The Fehu rune symbolizes prosperity, the potential to undertake, but also how to reflect. The Yera rune is the reward for labor, the beginning of new things, as well as difficulties in the task. The Wunyo rune is inner renewal, evolution itself, the celebration of life, although it also represents diseases and the search to solve situations that stop us. The Manas rune speaks of decisions, conviction, but it also speaks of personal struggle. The Naudis rune reminds us that nothing is perfect. It is the recognition of failures and the perseverance to keep moving forward. The Kauna rune is progress itself, security when walking, that invites us to get out of the attachments and structures that hold us back. The Hagalas rune is the transformation, remembers the importance of change, and shows us our resistance. The Berkana rune is stability, family, home, love, and in turn reminds us that to maintain it, we do not have to cling to it. The Tyr rune speaks of action, of standing firm in the face of life, just as it reminds us to be careful in everything we throw at ourselves, to be prudent. The Isa rune is firmness, self-confidence, which is why it reminds us to be firm in our axis in the face of adverse circumstances. The Gebo rune is that of relationships, love, giving to each other. The Raido rune is the journey, the retreat, the movement, and it speaks of taking distance from things to analyze before acting. The Thurisaz rune is a new beginning, the end of one cycle and the beginning of another, but it reminds us to keep our feet on the ground, to be realistic and to have courage. The Ehaz rune is the impulse that leads us to face adversity, maintaining respect, as it reminds us that despite unexpected changes, everything always has a purpose. The Ansu's rune speaks of creativity and the ability to trust in what you are capable of doing, reminding us that despite such confidence, we should not deceive ourselves. The Perthro rune is prosperity, a good omen, but it reminds us that it is necessary to overcome feelings of dissatisfaction, to be honest. The Dagas rune speaks of integration, freedom, and maturity, sustaining the focus on the things we seek to do. The Aiwas rune is solidarity, the necessary balance to obtain any expected result. The Algi's rune reminds us of the importance of saying no, of setting limits. The Othela rune speaks of acting differently, looking for new ways and paths, invites flexibility. The Sowelo rune is the will, the ability to manifest, the great creative energy. The Lagus rune is satisfaction, the axis with oneself and the environment. It is self-confidence, but it reminds us that it is sometimes necessary to open up to receive advice. The Ingwas rune launches us to carry out new projects. It speaks of gestation, of a new order in life, seeking unity. The Urus rune is the creative capacity and sexuality, the ability to bring mind to matter, and for this it reminds us to find a balance in this vital energy. And as I said, number 25, or rune 0, is that of Wotan Odin, the beginning and the end, the acceptance of things as they are, no expectations, everything is as it is. Me, they are teachings and tools to cross the tree. I am. Each one of these 10 kingdoms of Yggdrasil leads us to understand the need for the darkest places, to those most luminous of our unconscious, which guide what we are, and that by using them with acuity, we can be masters of our destinies. Me. And what about the Sephirot? I am. Here we go. The 10 kingdoms of the Hebrew tree are Keter, Chochma, Bina, Chesed, Gebura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malkut. And its fruits are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Me. What do these tubercles mean? I am. Keter means crown, pure potential from which all things emanate, beginning of creation, first will of existence, potential of being. Chochma means wisdom, therefore the beginning of the mind, the idea, the thought. It is the intuition that delivers the artistic capacities. Bina is the understanding, therefore knowledge and reason, who structures and delimits the parts of creative wisdom. Chesed is mercy, related to unconditionality, compassion, the goodness of being at the service from the heart. Gebura is power, heroism. It represents strength, judgment, discernment. Tiferet is beauty, the order of things, the divine energy manifested in the worlds. It is the unity and balance between the compassionate forces of Chesed and the severity of Gebura, feminine and masculine in one. Netzach is the victory related to feelings and emotions, to sensitivity. Hod is the splendor, related to majesty and praise. Yesod is the foundation, which determines the laws, the principles, the basis on which the worlds manifest. And finally, Malkut is the kingdom, where all the attributes of the tree are put to the test, integrated, manifested in the experience of the one who reigns over his own life. Me. And the idea is to be able to integrate the nutrients accumulated by these tubers to bring them to light as these attributes. I am. And your tools will be the truths that emerge from you, from the unconscious that keeps the power hidden in its receptacles, so you can activate its fruits. Aleph, the universal teacher, is the meditation and journey to the internal world where the divine and the human come together. Beit, the eternal residence, where the sensitivity of the soul is enveloped by a body that invites us to expand, to live from internal contemplation. Gimel, the shepherd, who travels the world and chooses his destiny between good and bad, to be flexible in the experience. Dalet, the great door, the return to the essence beyond the ego, invites humility. Hey, breath of life, is the expression, creativity, manifestation from the divine verb to the material. Vav, the divine mediator, who watches over the unity and connection between all things, heaven and earth, feminine and masculine, matter and spirit. Zayin, thanksgiving, is the liberation of all the attachments of the past that bind us, to allow the soul to expand. Chet, motivating force, drives change, transformation, leads to revitalizing energy. Tet, profound power, is the review and reflection of actions, a meditation that gives a new meaning. Yod, the hand of God, is the power of the infinite that inhabits all things. Chaf, the resurrection body, is the energy that leads us to action, passing from the spiritual to the physical, the divine manifestation. Lamed, word of love, the power of the heart that shows the beauty of life, that inspires existence. Mem, the Great Mother, the weaver of all realities, with infinite unconditional love that unites all things, source of wisdom. Nun, guardian of the work, drives to grow, unmasking the ego, leading to the temperance of being. Samech, the shield of light, is infinite, perpetual, trust and refuge in oneself. Ayin, the eye of God, is providence, infinite vision, spiritual contemplation. Be, the creator word, the gift of communication, of vibration becoming matter. Tzadeh, the androgyny, is equality, the unity of forces in balance. Kof, midnight sun, omnipresence, the ability to find light in the darkest of shadows. Reish, the wealth of heart, is the purification of all mental patterns, freeing the potential of the soul. Shin, the divine fire, is the transmutation and balance between the forces of the immutable, the potential, and the changing. Tav, star of truth, the discernment that drives to find the right path of evolution. Me, all these potentials of myself are accumulated in the tubers of my story. I am, and to find them, you must let yourself die. Be absorbed by them to rediscover these potentials within you. Well, these forces live inside you, which you have been building throughout each 10-day week this year. A, I, E, Yil, U, O, U, W, Ha. Crown, third eye, laryngeal, heart, plexus, sacrum, root, knees, ankles, and toroid. And all the data that each of them entails, the topics discussed on their corresponding days, are the nutrients that you have accumulated in these 10 tubers, as reserves to nourish your being throughout each process you carry out in your life, to keep your tree of life alive. Me, every step, every story, it vibrates in me. I am, and you can resort to it whenever you feel like dying, in order to obtain from it the nutrients that elevate you. Get to know them, and when the time comes, you will know how and what to use them for. Me, each of these kingdoms, of these letters, represents someone in my life. I am, that's right. Each individual in history, both past and present, are reflections of these realms, homes, and potentials, of these tools, and they contain within them what you need. Sometimes they have accumulated things that harm you, but knowing their place and potential, you can reverse their content. Just recognize them, become aware that they nourish your existence, and you will learn to know what to take from them at all times. Me, I let myself die underground now, exhausted from all this, open to nourish myself with what my dead can give to my living, and build a new tree. I am, expanded by the links of history, a forest full of future will grow.